afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Inside the Industry. Today, we are joined by Caroline Phillips and Tobias Dyroff from National Cannabis Festival. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, but first and foremost, I want to thank you both for your time today. I'm sure you both have a lot going on relative to the festival. So thank you for taking the time out, speaking with us, and sharing just some of your experiences with NCF with our patient community. So thank you again for being here. I wanted to go around and have everybody introduce themselves for those who are not familiar with NCF, National Cannabis Festival, and the things that you've done, the monumentous things that you've done over the years.
Thank you. My name is Caroline Phillips, and I'm the founder and producer for the National Cannabis Festival. We are headed into our 7th year over the RFK campus. For those of you that aren't familiar with the festival, we had our first festival in 2016, and over the years, it's grown to be the largest ticketed cannabis event on the East Coast. So we're very proud of that. I grew up here in the DC area, so it's especially meaningful for me to be able to produce an event like the National Cannabis Festival here in Washington, DC. The festival itself is a celebration of advocacy and progress on cannabis legalization in the DMV region, but also around the country. And then it's also a celebration. We have a full day concert, education pavilions. We have a growers championship now, a huge food court. It's really a great gathering for the whole community.
And I'm Tobias, and I'm a production coordinator for the National Cannabis Festival. And I have been with NCF since year 3. And, I help with all the sponsors and exhibitors and coordinating the activations during the festival day.
Well, thank you both again for being here today. And also we have Tracy, the Executive VP of Peake ReLeaf, one of the original founders. I want to make sure that those who aren't familiar with her are introduced to her as well. Caroline, you started by mentioning that NCF has been around since 2016. And since then, it's achieved considerable growth. It's had musical acts coming from all over the nation. It's had visitors and guests coming from all over the nation. What are some of the challenges that you faced building a festival of this type and accounting for all of the growth that you've seen over the years?
So building the festival, there are a lot of challenges. Some I anticipated and some I really didn't have the experience to know would be coming. I think the biggest challenge has been the ever shifting cannabis policies in our region. And then the kind of consumer or the cannabis enthusiast education around how those policies are changing. When we first started the festival in 2016, I thought that we were getting maybe a year or two ahead of full legalization. At the time, I was, some would say optimistic, some other people might say naive, about how quickly policy moves, especially at the federal level, but also at the state level. So I thought that we were just kind of starting something a little bit early and that we would be at this festival that was able to celebrate a fully regulated cannabis marketplace across the United States. Of course, that isn't quite the case yet. This has been a good year for cannabis legalization as a whole. We're getting there. So instead, the festival really has been a celebration of the progress and also an opportunity to acknowledge the challenges. So apart from challenges around policy, just putting on a large scale event is a pretty challenging thing to do. There aren't many women who do what we do here at National Cannabis Festival. Our team is primarily women, which is great. Maybe not so great for Toby, but he hangs in there and does a great job with all of us. And then also there aren't many Black and brown people that own and operate music festivals, let alone cannabis festivals. So we do sometimes find ourselves alone in a room, but we have great allies in the industry that have helped move us along. I think the other challenge has been something that we've all faced in the past 2 years, everything to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. For us, we're a music festival. When you go to music festivals, you want to have fun, you want to step away from the real world for a couple of hours or for a full day. And that was something that became really difficult for people to do during the pandemic, just because we were all worried about health and livelihood and how our families were doing. We were really excited to bring the festival back in 2021 and then to have another festival again in 2022. So I think one of the challenges has just been learning about how the pandemic has impacted the people in our community and how we need to adjust to make sure that we keep the festival really safe and really fun for people going forward.
You go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say, Tobias, in terms of some of your experiences, have there been challenges unique to your role and position that you've experienced as well?
Yes, I feel as if just dealing with a lot of different people in the industry, it's very hard for me to keep track of a lot of details, and there's just so many different types of people within the industry and companies, and just like dealing with all that has been a challenge for us as well especially during the pandemic, because I know not a lot of people were able to thrive during the pandemic. So it's just been a challenge getting that back and getting the feel of the festival before the pandemic and bringing that back and kind of having the same feeling. It has been a challenge, but I think we've done a great job post COVID, keeping the same vibes and fun at the festival.
Yeah, absolutely. National Cannabis Fest is always like such a great time to be able to go and kind of disconnect from the day-to-day things and have fun and see the music. And also, in addition to that, you guys have a lot of advocacy there. You've got education there too. So could you speak to the education pavilions that you have, and a little bit about how that came about and what it's looked like over the years?
Absolutely. One of the original missions of the festival was to educate the public about cannabis and to show them all aspects, not just of industry, but of culture and how cannabis plays a role in our daily lives. So the first year of the festival, we had one main education pavilion, and it was packed all day. I know that I was kind of surprised. I thought maybe, some people would want to check out one or two sessions, but to see people filling the actual pavilion and then sitting on the ground around it to listen to the sessions was something that we weren't quite expecting. In the 6 years since, we have grown from one main education pavilion that covered a variety of topics to 6 pavilions that now each have individual themes that have sort of specialized teams that work on building that content. And it's been incredible to see how the demand for education around cannabis industry, cannabis advocacy, cannabis as medicine, cannabis and technology, the cultivation of cannabis, how the demand for that knowledge has grown in such a way that we've had to physically expand the education facilities on the festival grounds. In 2023, we're going to have 6 education pavilions. So we'll be bringing back our policy pavilion, where you can meet all of the nonprofit advocates who've been working so hard for so long to get us to where we are today with the cannabis industry and community. If you visit our grow school, you'll be able to learn about home and commercial cultivation. You can go and check out the Culture Pavilion and take part in the Cannatank Entrepreneur Contest. Also just hear from some of the really great brands in this space. We have a Culinary Pavilion. We also this year will be introducing our Psychedelics Pavilion for the first time ever. So there's a lot to learn at the festival, a lot of opportunities, and we're happy to see that aspect of what we bring to the community expanding each year.
One of the things that you touched on as you were sharing the information about the different pavilions is you give the opportunity to educate the public based on whatever their varied interests might be, whether it's about grow, whether it's about getting involved more in the community and advocacy opportunities. You really do an amazing job of educating the public. But one of the things that's additionally amazing is that you also give the community the opportunity to educate each other through the session selector panel session proposal contest, and giving opportunities for people that really have big ideas or just things that are topically relevant to the cannabis community. You're giving them the opportunity to share whatever those insights might be, those discoveries might be, with other members of the community. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process, that contest, and maybe even some of your favorite panels that you may remember from that initiative over the years?
Absolutely. By about year 3 of the festival, we started to realize how much knowledge there was out there in the community that wasn't finding its way to our education stages. And we started to think of ways that we could solicit those ideas and give the community a platform to share what they know. We came up with a session selector contest. The contest is free to enter. All you have to be able to do is type out a paragraph that explains the panel or workshop or demo that you'd like to bring to the festival. And then we select community members' ideas and then ideas from our nonprofit advocacy groups to make up the education programs for the day. And over the years, we've seen some really creative ideas come to life. Some things that come to mind, I think my favorites would be the ideas I would absolutely never think of because they're so far sort of out of my realm of expertise. And this past year, we had a really cool panel that was talking about cryptocurrency in cannabis. That's just not something that I really got in my head all the way wrapped around. We've also seen a really great panel specifically on dentistry in cannabis. So I thought that was really interesting. But my all-time favorite was produced by Patricia Patton in 2019. She did a panel discussion on seniors, so our golden buds, and how they're learning about cannabis and using it in their lives. That panel was so popular and people responded to it so well that it inspired us to have the Seniors Lounge at National Cannabis Festival, where folks 65 and over can hang out with their friends, meet each other, grab some refreshments and get off their feet for a little bit.
That's really cool that particularly in that instance that you guys have been able to take that kind of community feedback and really build on that to build to something that was a need from or a desire from the community that was attending and really be able to incorporate that into the official structure into future years. So that's really cool. Could you tell us too a little bit more generally about the festival itself, a larger festival? Like tell us a little bit about what prompted the creation of it. Like how did that kind of journey begin and what's been like the general feedback that you've had about the festival over the years?
Absolutely. In 2015, I was working in the human rights space, doing a lot of work on international and refugee rights work. And around that time, DC's medical programs started to grow, dispensaries started to open, and I got my medical card. But for me at the time, it was still something I did at night in secret because we've been told it's not a good thing to do. But in going to the dispensary in DC, I started to recognize friends and neighbors, and I was like, so interesting. Seems like this cannabis plant touches a lot more people than just those of us who hide after work when we choose to consume cannabis. So I saw that and I started to talk to folks that I recognized from the dispensary, and I realized that there was this interest for people to gather. And a couple of months later, I had the opportunity to produce the first conference that came to DC after Initiative 71 became law in the city. And Initiative 71 allowed adults 21 plus to possess cannabis, to consume cannabis in private, and to share cannabis with one another. So if I had some cannabis, I could offer it to Toby as a gift from myself to him. This conference is really exciting and a lot of interesting information was shared, but I noticed that it didn't represent a diverse community. And that's what we have here in DC and in the DMV region, very, very diverse communities of people. And that's what got my mind turning. I realized that that conference was really expensive and that it didn't feel like it was accessible to everyone. It sort of felt like you already had to know a bunch about cannabis in order to be able to attend. So we wanted to create something that was accessible and approachable, but most importantly, affordable for people to be able to attend. And the festival format seemed like something that we could play with and mold and shape into a program that could offer people all of those opportunities. So in the fall of 2015, I set out to put on the first National Cannabis Festival. And that spring, we had 5,000 people attend at this little field off to the side of RFK Stadium. Going into year 7 now, we're expecting 25,000 people. And the biggest section is still available to use at RFK Stadium. And we're really excited to see how the program has grown. I'm always talking to members of our team about how incredible the vibe is at the festival. And in a way, you know, we put up the fence, we put up the stage, We make sure that the nuts and bolts are there for the festival to happen. But it's the companies that come and set up these incredible booths or have these really fun activations or have really energetic, welcoming, cheerful staff working their exhibitor booth that create the vibe that keep people coming back. So I know that going into year 7, especially after a tough few years for everybody, we just feel really grateful to have such a great community of supporters to welcome all of our attendees back and to be able to keep this tradition alive.
You know, when you brought up the festival format, one of the things that I thought of was that how amazing it is that you're utilizing that as a way to provide opportunities for advocacy and education and accessibility. Because oftentimes when people think cannabis conference or cannabis, like large scale cannabis gathering, it's often marketed as more recreational and there are no opportunities for education or advocacy. Even if there are, it's presented as it's not. Or you're on the other side of the spectrum where it's very stoic and it's all about the science of cannabis and doesn't feel as inviting and as communal unless you're a part of the scientific community that are going for research purposes or to glean some sort of knowledge. But what I really like about NCF is that you've managed to create with this festival format a community that feels like a community, but also is accessible to anyone that has any interest in cannabis, even in like a tertiary way. Even if it's like, I'm just curious as to what people are doing with it. Well, there's a spot for you here. Or I'm curious at how it can affect my health in a positive way. I'm over 65. Well, there's a spot for you over here. Well, I'm interested in maybe finding out how I can grow up myself because I have somebody in my family who may not be able to afford buying it, but I know it could benefit them because they have a medical condition. Well, there's a spot for you over here. Well, I really like it. I want to grow it. And I think I can take cannabis to the next level. Well, we have a competition for you here. You can be judged by your peers and learn areas of improvement so you can refine your own process. So no matter what you're interested in, there's a spot for you at National Cannabis Festival. And I think that's one of the reasons why you've seen so much growth over the years. It doesn't feel exclusionary in any way. It's like there's always going to be a spot no matter what you're interested in. And I think that carries over into the policy summit because even with some of the subject matter that I've seen over the years with the policy summit, you're still trying to make sure that everyone's needs are addressed or recognized to some degree. So even with the policy summit, what prompted the creation of that initially and what's the feedback from that been like over the years? And either one of you can kind of jump in with that based on your experiences with it.
Absolutely. So with the policy summit, that popped up in year 3, and I think it's interesting that you pointed out the educational component of the festival and how people come for more than just recreation. They're learning while they're there. We really wanted that to be National Cannabis Festival. We wanted it to sort of be like a rock the vote event. Now I think I'm sort of dating myself, but for those of us of a certain age, Rock the Vote was this really cool music festival that MTV put on where young people would go to hear their favorite bands, but you also got hit over the head with important issues that could impact your life and becoming aware of politics. And that's what we were trying to do with the festival. It was like, okay, you recognize Wiz Khalifa on stage. If that's what you walked in the door for, great. But to get to Wiz Khalifa, you're probably gonna pass 10 booths being staffed by nonprofit advocacy organizations, or another couple of booths where for-profit companies have a t-shirt that says something about a nonprofit they're supporting. But you're gonna end up hearing or learning something about this issue. Maybe you'll by mistake stumble into an education pavilion, or you by mistake end up listening when there's a politician on stage speaking between bands. But we just wanted to make it easy for folks to learn and make it part of the experience of the festival, so you're not having to step out of the space to get that knowledge. That was going really well, and it still is, but we also started to notice that more conservative lawmakers and elected officials seemed hesitant to come to the festival. And I'm not sure if it was optics, like, well, we don't want to be, in a photo with people in the background having fun. I don't know what it was about, like, God forbid. But from my background working on the Hill and doing human rights work, I knew that we could get people from both sides of the aisle to participate if we gave them the right platform. And I knew that a safe platform was a policy summit, more conference style setting where they could be certain of who is in the room and their press team could take press requests and make sure that their representative was, standing in front of the right backdrop, whatever it is they're concerned about. But it seemed to work almost immediately. We saw that the participants of the policy summit were representing a lot more views, conservative, liberal views. And for us, that was part of the goal, to bring these unlikely allies together to figure out where they had overlapping interests around cannabis and to hopefully spark that conversation between them on our stage for them to keep going when they left the room. We also knew that when we get somebody who maybe doesn't speak to our beliefs 100% of the time to say the right thing on cannabis policy reform, their audience, the people they speak to, who again, I may not agree with 100% of the time, are hearing that louder than when I say it, because they trust that person more than they trust me. So I do think and hope that the policy summit is able to continue being this opportunity to have people who may not share all of the same interests come together around one issue and work on it together. And I think most of the credit around this policy summit really does go to the nonprofit advocacy groups on our advocacy committee, because they're the ones that work really hard on the lawmaker invitations every year. And they put their reputations on the line to follow up on those invitations on our behalf to get those folks in the room, because they know that will help advance their work as well. So the policy summit is cool, much like the festival. It's a very collaborative effort. I know that Toby's focus is more sponsor exhibitors at the festival, but working with them, I know that he also gets to see how inspired they are and how dedicated they are to supporting the nonprofit groups that have helped us create the educational content and the summit around the festival.
I think that's really beautiful how you've been able to really build this space where you can have people from different views come together and find those commonalities, because we know that there are a lot of commonalities. Cannabis is a bipartisan issue. So it's really great to be able to have a platform that can facilitate that dialogue. So thank you for doing that. I think that's incredible. Well, we're happy to be able to support NCF as we can, and we love being there every year. Ever since we opened, we've been there every year. So it's always a lot of fun. It's always a great opportunity. It's always a lot of fun to do that and interact with everybody who's there. And there's a lot of our team who wants to do it. So that's great. Thinking back over the years, for both of you, Tobias and Caroline, could you both tell us a little bit about maybe some of your favorite memories from the festival over the years?
Toby, I'll let you go first.
Some of my favorite memories. Well, I started actually as an attendee. I went as an attendee for the first 2 years. And the first year, it was just so unreal to have something like this. And obviously, I love De La Soul and being able to be up front. So that was really great. But as an employee, what I've enjoyed most is really just getting to know the community. And I feel like I have truly become a part of the DMV cannabis community, and just getting to know like people's passions and like how passionate they are about it, and seeing how much the festival has grown, and just being a part of that is my favorite part of NCF. It's just, I feel like I'm contributing to the cause, and being a part of something that's bigger than you is very important, I feel.
I think for me, there are a lot of things that have been cool to see over the years. We have a really great team that works around the festival, and they worked through really subprime conditions around the pandemic and came back because they loved the event, not because we were able to do all of the things that bigger companies could do for them. But being able to watch how our team has grown and developed over the years, taking on more responsibility, doing things now that they weren't able to do a few years ago, and seeing, yeah, how they've developed relationships in the community and how they go out into the community to represent NCF, and people are so glad to see them. I think the other things that have been exciting for us to see each year are how the companies that we work with have grown. There are some companies that came in year one, and like I do think of some of the Maryland and DC dispensaries who, the first year that they participated, it's kind of feeling very frazzled just to get a table and a backdrop set up, because they're also trying to run this dispensary across town and trying to figure out how to do all of the things at once. But it's been really great to see those businesses grow, and you can see it reflected at the festival. The setups are more professional, it's smoother. The staff is excited to come and participate because they've done it a few years in a row now. And also seeing their guests and their customers coming out to the festival to visit their booths. So you can see a huge difference between year one and year 7 about how our community has grown. And if nothing else, maybe National Cannabis Festival acts as an interesting yearbook for the DMV cannabis community, where once a year we get together for our big class photo. It's like a family reunion. We all get to see each other for the first time in a while, see how we've grown, who's had kids, all of that. And we kind of get to brag a little bit together and show off the best of our work to all of these cool people that come in from around the country to visit with us. And I think that is one of the things that I've noticed most coming out of the pandemic, is what the festival means to people beyond just like a day of attending an event, but just like the opportunity to reunite and check in together. So that's something that's been really cool to see get more established.
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of amazing memories from NCF, and you guys always do an amazing job with the lineup. It's like, oh, De La Soul's going to be there. Well, I guess I need to be there. Or, Farside's going to be there. Or Cypress Hill's going to be there. Well, I guess I need to be there. Or, Method Man's coming through. Or Ghostface is coming through. All right, well, I guess I need to be there again. So not only do you really devote time and effort to one singular aspect of NCF, but you can tell there's a lot of love and a lot of care in curating all these different aspects of the festival. And it's a lot to juggle. Just even hearing you describe the things that you're doing, just between the two of you, I'm immediately overwhelmed. I can't. So I applaud you both for having the strength of your team to continue to put something together like this that's continuing to grow over the years. But you can tell there's a lot of love in it and a lot of love for the community that continues to come and support it. And I think that's reflected back to you all through that exponential growth that you're seeing every year. It's like they see that it's an authentic experience, and that means we should be supporting it. Because I've seen, even in my short time in the cannabis industry, I've only been a part of it for 4 or 5 years, but even in that, I've seen various events come and go quickly. I've seen conferences come and go quickly, because it was easy to tell from a community standpoint that they weren't invested in the long-term building of community. They were just trying to cash in on kind of that green rush that was happening when the industry first opened up. But I think it's a real testament to the dedication that you have to the community and the love that you have for the community, that you just keep whatever is invested into you all, you just keep investing it back into making NCF as big and as authentic and as great as it can possibly be. Just me saying thank you all for continuing to do that and provide that space for everybody. I know our staff appreciates it, our patient community appreciates it, and I'm sure the thousands of festival goers appreciate it every year. So
thank you so much. We really appreciate being able to work with you guys and all that you're doing to bring more access to medicine for Maryland's patients. Also, congratulations on the passage of question 4. That's really exciting. Who knows what's coming next? I think we have to wait till next July for it to be fully implemented, but it's huge progress. We're excited about 2023 and about seeing our community come together again and getting to celebrate all of the upcoming legislation that will be going into effect in the region next year. And I guess I do have one question for you guys. Maybe I shouldn't ask this, but who would you be interested in seeing headline National Cannabis Festival next year? You have to put a couple of names out there, it can't be just one, like a nice short list.
Oh, that's such a good question. Kevin, default to you. You go first. I need some time to think.
Yeah, wow. Seeing as you all had lettuce, so I was thinking Snarky Puppy would be really great. They're an incredible band. Always give an amazing show. We'll do like 8 encores for no particular reason, but they're really great. They're really a wonderful band. Man, that's tough. That's because I feel like you guys have grown to a point where I could say something and it's not really unrealistic. Like, oh, they could absolutely be part of National Campus Festival because you've had all these other amazing artists come in the past. But there's a lot of people I want to see come back. I mean, I do want to see De La Soul come back. I do want to see Farside come back. Selfishly.
Right? For our 10-year anniversary, we should do like a reunion concert where we bring back our favorites from past 10 years.
With that, I'm definitely.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most Def, I would love to see come through.
That would be amazing.
I'm sure I'm going to think of more, but I'm going to hand it off to Tracy because I don't want to monopolize this question completely. But I have a few more. I'm going to hand it off to Tracy really quick.
well, you mentioned Wu-Tang, and I'll say I had the opportunity to see them play with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra in Colorado, and it was like mind-blowing. It was so good. Something like that would be amazing. I mean, Kevin listed a lot of the artists and bands that I really like too. I really love some jazzy New Orleans type music too. So like Dirty Dozen brass bands and things like that. You know, you put a bunch of horns in a band and I'm going to be like, yep,
that's
I'll be there, whoever they are.
Same.
That is a great idea. Yeah, Toby does a lot of the inspired thinking around kind of emerging talent for the festival and then sends me lists and does a really good job like making great suggestions. But it's always like this intense debate among our team for who ends up headlining and why and what kind of a vibe they'll bring and all of that stuff. But it's fun for us to ask other people and just, you know, hear ideas, watch you guys agonize over the decision with us. But yeah, we'll see. The announcement's coming up in January, so.
Very excited to see that announcement as it comes through. You guys always make such great selections, so you know you're doing the right thing. So just keep doing it.
You know, I can't wait to see what's announced in 2023, which leads me to my question of, speaking of 2023, is there anything at all that you could possibly share about what might be coming, that you could hint at, even vaguely, that you could hint at that might be coming in 2023?
I mean, I think we can talk about some of the festival changes and program changes. I am very paranoid about our concert announcement, so you'd really have to shake that out of me. But this year we will be introducing some more attractions on the main festival grounds. I mentioned earlier that we're adding a psychedelics pavilion so people can learn about natural medicines and all of the research on psychedelics among our education spaces. We are also going to be doing the announcement for the National Cannabis Championship Awards from the main stage before the headliner goes on this year. So that will be really cool. The folks who enter that home grow contest and make it to the finals, they'll be recognized on the main stage this year in front of the biggest crowd of the day. The other thing that I'm super excited about is the addition of our LGBTQ+ lounge. So we're going to have a lounge on site this year specifically for members of the LGBTQ+ community. We're hoping that some of our nonprofit partners will host that lounge and help produce content that will be interesting to folks who are allies of or members of that community. So it's exciting to see the kind of special interest experiences at NCF grow this year. Of course, we'll be bringing back our pro wrestling group and some other sports experiences on site. So there'll be even more to do and a really great concert lineup that I'm not going to share today.
I was hoping maybe we get like one, but I understand. I completely understand. Just coupled with all the things that you've just shared, I can't wait to just see how everything continues to come together. You've never disappointed with NCF. So, you know, just if these are the things you can announce, then I'm even more excited for the things you can't announce, because the things you have been able to announce are pretty amazing. And I think will continue to bring a lot of the community together in really exciting ways that I think they haven't even anticipated. Definitely looking forward to it. I would say if there's any other things that you'd like to share with our patient community. now would be the best time to do it and bring our conversation to a close.
Absolutely. Well, definitely be on the lookout for our big concert announcement in January 2023. Right now, we have our session selector contest running if you're interested in presenting a panel at National Cannabis Festival. And we also have our 420 week event contest happening, where you can present your own event during the week leading up to National Cannabis Festival and get some cash to help support those efforts. So if you're interested in presenting an idea for the festival program, you have a couple of weeks to get those ideas submitted. You can check out web pages online where we have more information about specifics for entering those contests at nationalcannabisfestival.com. And if you're interested in attending, our early bird ticket sale will be happening over the holidays with a big concert announcement, like I said earlier, happening in January. But check us out at nationalcannabisfestival.com, subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on social media, and you can get some pretty great sneak peeks of big announcements coming up and also some discount codes for when tickets do go on sale.
Perfect. So again, thank you both for your time today, for sharing the origins of NCF, where it has been, where it's going, and just all the different things that we can expect to hear. I'm sure are going to excite our patient community, just excite all the festival goers. So thank you again for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see what's announced. I'm very, very excited.
Thank you.